Let's talk about wildfires. Hello and welcome. Welcome to Input English. This episode, I'd like to share with you some experiences that we had in recent years with wildfires in Northern California. Wildfires are one of many natural disasters that people have had to deal with. So, what are some of the other natural disasters? We've already mentioned wildfires. The inspiration for making this video actually comes from the news right now because of the active hurricane season. Many people who I know on the East Coast of the United States are currently coping with horrible weather because of a series of hurricanes. This is an active hurricane season, which stretches from June until December each year. And this year, it's very active. When you mention hurricanes, naturally tornadoes come to mind because tornadoes may be associated with hurricanes. They can spin off around hurricanes. Also, flooding can be associated with hurricanes. These are natural disasters: floods, tornadoes, hurricanes. In California, we also are very aware of earthquakes, potential volcanic activity, and earthquakes can be associated with flooding called tsunamis. These are natural disasters that we think of in California because this part of the country is seismically very active. And I guess to complete the list, we should mention pandemics because they indeed are natural disasters that people have to deal with. So when we say wildfires, we're talking about an uncontrolled fire involving trees, vegetation, grass. And then if there are buildings in the area of the wildfire, they indeed can become involved and consumed by the wildfire. In Northern California, we have a great deal of land that is either grassland or forest. People like living in those areas, and so houses have been built in the midst of all of this vegetation. When fires occur, they can rapidly get out of control and large areas can be burned. This happened in our area in 2020. Now think back, 2020, we were in the midst of a pandemic, a global pandemic with COVID. And so that had greatly disrupted lives. But in Northern California in August, conditions were very dry, and then something happened. We had a series of electrical storms go through the area, sparking fires in multiple locations. I can recall being awakened by the sound of thunder in the middle of the night. This was unusual, unexpected, and so I got up to investigate. Looking out the window, I could see the surrounding countryside, and there were intermittent flashes of lightning that would briefly illuminate the sky. It was perhaps 3 o'clock in the morning, perhaps 4 o'clock in the morning. It should have been dark and quiet. Now, the problem that I immediately identified was there was no rain associated with these lightning strikes. This is what the locals call dry lightning. There's no precipitation. There's no rain to moisten the vegetation. So this lightning is striking in areas where the vegetation is super dry. I can remember my thought at the time, oh my goodness, we're going to have wildfires. The reality for me was there was nothing to do. I could see the phenomenon unfolding in front of me, but there was literally nothing I could do about it. I saw no evidence of fires at that time. The next morning, I checked the news and there were already reports of multiple fires in the general vicinity of where we lived. Most of the fires were many miles away from us, but they were indeed a concern. One of the problems with wildfires is wind. Two types of wind, really. One is the prevailing wind, that is, what are the weather conditions in the area when that fire occurs. If there's a strong wind, that can fan the flames, it can cause the fire to enlarge greatly and travel quickly. There's another type of wind associated with wildfires, and that is the wind created by the fire itself. If a lot of vegetation is being consumed by fire, that releases a great deal of heat energy, so the air in the vicinity of that fire being heated rises. As that column of air rises, then air from surrounding areas comes in to take its place. And so fires, particularly wildfires, can create their own weather in the vicinity of the fire, and it can make it much worse. During the first few hours after the lightning strikes, we didn't see a lot of activity. I followed the news reports. After a while, we started to smell smoke and see a haze, but things did not evolve quickly near to where we lived. Over a period of a day and a half, it became clear that some of those fires were quite large and were developing out of control, causing major concern. Buildings were consumed by the fire. Large swaths of forest were consumed by fire, and our fear mounted. It increased. It increased as the amount of smoke in the air increased. The sky was yellow-brown and visibility was getting quite bad. You could smell smoke everywhere. This was later in the week, and so I decided to take Friday off. I told the employer, we've got a big problem with the wildfires and I need to prepare to evacuate if that's necessary. This was acceptable. So I took Friday off, and my wife and I started looking for things in the house that we needed to preserve. Now, some of the things in the house were simply too big to move. It was impractical. We could not evacuate with everything we had. One of the terms of art that she and I developed, we call the football. Now, this is a metaphor. It comes from a term of art created by the Defense Department, because we are told that the President of the United States has codes related to national defense that have to be with him at all times. That collection of codes is called the football by the security apparatus and the military. So my wife and I co-opted that term of art, referring to a small container in which we placed important things like birth certificates, marriage certificates, car registrations, things that we would have trouble replacing if they were lost. So we created this little file box with a handle on it that we called the football. The idea was if something happened and we needed to evacuate quickly, the one thing we would grab would be the football. But in the setting of these fires, we had a little more time than just grabbing that one thing. We had time to pack clothing. Toiletries. We were going on a trip and we didn't know how long that trip was going to be. The question arose, how do we evacuate? What are the mechanics of our evacuation? My wife and I have a travel trailer. So when we prepared to evacuate, the plan was to evacuate in the trailer. I also have some musical instruments in the house that I would not like to lose. It was not possible to move them all, for instance, the piano, but there were some in cases that I could move. So I took some to my office, which was many miles away and not likely to be involved in the fire. I also took some to a friend's house, and this friend lives, again, far away in an area not likely to be involved in a fire. So we had safeguarded a few musical instruments. We had the football, and we packed what we needed in the trailer to evacuate. We were hoping to not need to leave. So as we were preparing, we were monitoring our devices to make sure that it was actually necessary to leave our home. On Saturday, the reports became increasingly grim. The fire was moving in our direction. It was getting close enough that we needed to evacuate, so our decision was made. We just had to complete our packing, and then we would leave that night with the plan of driving to a place that we could set up the trailer or find a hotel room. It was about 11:30 at night that I saw lights outside the house. Those lights were on the vehicle driven by the sheriff's deputy. The sheriff was there to enforce the evacuation and encourage people to leave the area because of the fire threat. I greeted the sheriff's deputy, we spoke briefly, and I explained that we would be out in minutes. We were just finishing up our preparations. We left just before midnight that night, and we drove about 35 miles, and we found a hotel that was open and a hotel that had enough parking that we could park the truck and trailer in the back of the parking lot. That was important. We got a good night's sleep, and the following day, we found a campground for trailers that had an opening for us to set up the trailer and set up our household while this natural disaster played out. The next morning, we checked into that campground, we set up the trailer, and quickly discovered that there were things that we had forgotten. Oh no. Well, the information we had was that the roads in our area were being blocked by the sheriff's deputies, preventing people from going back into their houses. Since we were missing only a few items, we decided to go to a store and replace those items to make our stay in this campground more pleasant. We were in a large discount department store, and I got a text message from one of my friends at work who lives perhaps a mile away from us in the same general area. And her text message was very clear. The roads are open. We have gone home to get some things. I thought, perfect. So we went back out to the car, got in the car, and drove home. Now, we drove home without the trailer. The trailer was set up in the campground, and we had planned on staying in that trailer. That was not an issue. We just had an opportunity to get some things. When we got into the area where we lived, the roads were open. There were no police cruisers. There were no sheriff's deputies. Nothing was happening. So we drove straight to the house. The smoke was very dense. We went into the house, gathered up a few things, and we were gone within 15 minutes. We stayed in that campground for a week. It was actually quite pleasant. We monitored the fire based on reports on the internet. The fire got within about 7 miles of our house at the nearest. Gradually, the firefighters were able to bring these fires under control, and the all clear was announced that we could return to our homes. When we got home and looked around, there was no visible evidence in sight of any fire. The nearest fire was many miles away. The after effect of having gone through this scare that our house might be consumed by fire caused some behavioral change in the area. The homeowners in our area, as well as governments in the region, became very aware of the concept of a defensible space around your house. So we put a great deal of work into clearing brush, grass, flammable substance that is near to the home. Looking back to that experience, I observed that when we were under threat of this fire, our focus was primarily on our safety and not on preserving possessions and objects. We realized that the things in our home and the home itself were just things. They were just objects. We did not obsess about the risk that the fire represented to our possessions. We focused entirely on our mutual safety. We figured that if the house burned to the ground, we would find a place to live, someplace, and the possessions, they're just things. They're really not that important. So that's the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I invite comments below, and I hope you join us in future videos. See you soon.